And the corruption we are used to talking about is corruption on the expenditure side. Bwana Prime Minister, there is another corruption which is less talked about. Corruption on the collection side. Please pay close attention to that, and you will see, you will collect more, and you will be able now to fund bottom-up approach which Simon Kamau, my classmate Kule Makerere, normally talks about. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Bwana Prime Minister, you can be assured if that is your lecturer, you have no option but to pass the exam. And so I think after this, myself with Malala and SG of ANC, we will come for the evening classes. Thank you so much. So over to you, Prime Minister.
Okay, thank you. I will start with Ndoto. We all have to pay taxes, and we all must pay taxes, because without taxes we will not fund our schools, we will not fund our hospitals, we will not be able to construct roads, we will not be able to buy fuel in this country, so we must pay taxes. All right? I believe Ndoto is here because one day she might be the president of this country. So the question would be, how would Ndoto run her government if there are no taxes? So the solution is not to destabilize the government by refusing to pay taxes. The solution is to insist on accountability and the usage and improve on how those taxes are utilized. But for us to sustain ourselves, we must be able to generate internal revenues. That's how governments run globally. When the American government does its taxation, it taxes first and foremost to meet its own internal requirements. And then after that, they can support their international partners elsewhere, or friends elsewhere. And that happens with other developing countries. So we should not run away from that. On Ashura, I agree with you that it is absolutely essential that we have accurate and timely data. In fact, we need more data scientists, data analysts going into the future, because it's only through that basis that we can achieve better utilization of resources. And I do agree that more attention must be paid to persons living with various disabilities. This is something that we must do, and we must ensure that we have accurate data, because that is the starting point of ensuring we do it positively. So I can only acknowledge and agree with you on that. Mr. Lijodi has raised some issues, some to do with taxation, where you have containers and how we can tax this. And I think it's important that the Treasury, the government, takes keen interest in this, because this was part of the problem that affected very many small traders in Nairobi. The taxation policy around the goods, where small and medium enterprises pool together to be able to have consolidated imports of what they need, is an area that we need to manage very carefully and fairly, so that we do not destabilize their business. They are also earning a living from there. And this is something that I will take up, so that the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury and Planning, working with KRA, can look at this area very carefully so that we do not dismember a very critical segment of our economy, and more so when we are talking of the bottom-up economy. Because the consolidated container arrangement is basically the Harambe process, pulling together so that you can benefit from the economies of scale and be able to bring your container here. So we should not disadvantage the small-scale traders who cannot import containers on a standalone basis, but they are working through a cooperative arrangement to be able to earn an honest living. So we must be supportive in that process. The issue of the foreign traders or foreign businessmen. This is a hot topic in many countries from time to time, because trade and business has become global. It is no longer a situation where you say you can live with the old protectionism and isolate and lock out others. It's not possible. So what we need to do as a nation is always to ensure that we have the proper balance between the traders or the business people who come in to invest in our country and the Kenyan businessmen who are doing their work here. And I say so because, Mr. Lijodi, it may be of interest to you that one of the largest foreign direct investors in Uganda are Kenyans. And in the region, Kenyans are huge investors in the region. Some have moved away because of punitive taxation here, and they found it easier to invest in those countries, and they're creating jobs in the region, and they're earning resources. I don't have to mention all of them, but you can talk about Bidco, you can talk, they're investing in the region. So when we talk about how do we manage our relationship with the foreigners, we should not approach it from a xenophobic angle. You know, xenophobic is, we have seen it. We saw what happened in some countries in the south where certain nationals were being subjected to beatings and inhuman treatment. We should not fall into that trap, because even you as Kenyans, you find your way to China for your merchandise. You import from there. Sometimes you are forced to go there and stay even for 1 month sourcing these products so that you can bring them here. So we need to balance, because how would it be if, for instance, you are blocked from going to that country, or if you are mistreated in that country? So we need to be very careful in terms of our trade policy, in terms of being sure that we can attract foreign direct investment. We can also attract trade, all right? But we must balance it through proper policies, but not through discriminative approaches. Not a xenophobic approach, but let us look at it from a business perspective and rationalize our arrangements. That is what a civilized nation should do. Some questions. I will look for Governor Sakaja and tell him there are very hot issues here. How to manage the balance between the small-scale traders or hawkers and the ones who pay rates to the county government and so forth. This is a challenge, and I'm sure there are two governors, former governors here. They'll also speak to it, hopefully, Lonyangapuo Professor Kibuta Kibwana, who was also my teacher. They will perhaps throw in something here on this particular conversation. But all I can say is that going forward, county governments and indeed even the national government will have to do more in providing well-organized spaces within our urban centers and within the rural areas to allow the small-scale traders to have decent trading places for their businesses. That is something that we'll have to work on as we go forward. And as I said, these are not instant coffee solutions, but they are solutions that require constant, planned, and protracted investment in some of these areas. I agree that the portion of 30% tendering is not necessarily going to the beneficiaries, intended beneficiaries. That's a fact. Women, youth, people with disability, people are taking your portion in your name. So one of the things that I know the government is pushing hard is to fast track the process of e-procurement and to be able to leverage more on technology in this space so that we can have better results in ensuring that the intended people can be beneficiaries. Because the traditional way is showing us very clearly there's a lot of cheating and the intended people do not benefit. So technology may be our solution as we move forward. The young man from Alliance, the school. Yeah? Is it the school or the school? The school. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the young man from Alliance, Amon, was it? Amon? Yeah. He's right that we need to work more on the whole democracy and what is supposed to be good practices in democracy. And this is where I commend the Center for Multi-Party Democracy when they help in bringing this kind of fora on the table on a regular basis so that we can learn to appreciate that competition can be healthy and competition should be healthy. And then we should learn to live with that and then provide fair practices within that competition. Now, the whole arena of elections in Kenya has been a challenge. You know, whether it is elections in the parties, whether it is elections in cooperatives, whether it is elections in landnet, we have always had challenges. But we are making progress. We are making progress. I see that in the years to come, then you have institutions like the Supreme Court, which can nullify an election. In 2017, we saw the Supreme Court nullify an election and order for a repeat. We have seen it also even in parliamentary. In 2017, as an example, if I give statistics, I think there were over 300 petitions across the country, whether at county government level or at parliamentary and Senate levels, or just say parliamentary levels. there are about 300 petitions. If you check the elections that we have just come out of, about 6 months ago, the number of petitions filed across the board has reduced drastically from that high figure of 300 plus, which means that somewhere along the line, there are some positive steps that are coming through in this electoral processes. We need to continue working on the IEBC in this country, equipping them better, having them better resourced, training people, and ensuring their safety. Ensuring their safety. Because we also have a bad history where election officials in Kenya have lost their lives. If we want to consolidate democracy, we should make sure that all employees of the IEBC are guaranteed of their security so that they are not mobbed or harassed in any part of the country at all. And as I speak with a lot of insider information that if the electoral body had not stood firm in this immediate election, this country would have seen something perhaps even worse than the 2007-2008 episode. This was the first time we are seeing a situation where people who are not directly involved with the management of elections heading into the National Tallying Center and trying to demand the reversal or alteration of results. What saved this country was also technology. Because what was on the portal is exactly what came from the polling stations. Now that is a serious advancement in our democratic process. They are slow, they may be baby steps, but they are very significant steps in making sure that we improve on our democratic processes and our election. And I can tell you that a lot of the observers, the international observers, the local observers, acknowledge that this was one of the better times that technology has leveraged and delivered good and realistic and honest results that reflect the will of the people of Kenya. So we still have a journey to go, but we are moving in the right direction. Musa Abdi, pending bills. Where is he? Actually, you've talked only of the county government, but I may shock Kenyans today because the total pending bills on record so far are over 1 trillion Kenya shillings. And I've not talked about those that are in courts where judgment is pending or processes are being had, but that is the magnitude of the challenge that we have. Now, we have a major task, because these bills must be verified. Because definitely a good chunk of them are either fictitious or seriously inflated. So there has to be a very thorough audit process to verify these bills before they can be settled. The challenges are immense on this one. Because when you don't settle your pending bills, and I'm talking of the valid and verified ones, you are punishing people unfairly. Businesses are going bust. Auctioneers are moving into people's premises. People are losing jobs because of these high pending bills. And if you do not inject money through the right way of settling pending bills, you will not spur the economy. You will not spur the economy. But ladies and gentlemen, we are the government. We have been voted in. It's our duty to now solve these issues. But I want to ask you, is it possible that you could have pending bills of 1 trillion plus having accumulated just from the last election? Is it possible? It's not possible. That means these are issues that have arisen over a period of time. And that is why I said there is a series of either commissions or omissions that cumulatively put you into a hotspot. We are in a hotspot to be able to tackle some of these pending bills. What does it mean? It means that we must do much more on financial discipline, both at the county government level and at the national level. Are we committing procedurally, where there is a budget that is approved, so that you commit on that basis? Are we signing off those contracts after going through the process? If not, then we will not solve our pending bills problem. And they normally say, dawa ya deni ni nini? So as a government, we have to remember that there's that businessman in Kiambu, there's that businessman in Mandera, there's that businessman in Kisumu who built a road, who built a school, who supplied something and has not been paid, but his banker is now auctioning him. So we have to work to solve some of these issues. Now, I hope I'm not painting a gloomy picture. I'm trying to put Kenyans in a realistic place. Once we appreciate that, then we will find solutions together. And we are equal to the task, all of us. And we must look at technology as a place that we must leverage on. Finally, for the Professor Mbutu, I want to agree with you that we must leverage on the academia, we must leverage on research, so that we have accurate data to support us in our decision making. We must continue working against leakages and wastage in public office. We must improve on our revenue collection. And we must also become innovative and figure out how we can even leverage and support universities in a different way. I'm sure you know that in most of the other countries, universities are funded more through research, maybe 60% research and 40% other commitments, maybe the school fees and what have you. But unfortunately, we have been living in a situation where almost 90% of our universities here are being funded through the payments. That is not sustainable. So we will have to figure out, and there are experts like yourself and others who can give us ideas to break away from that cycle so that we can have alternative funding mechanisms for universities so that they can be more sustainable. I think that was the first round. I think I can only manage one more round because of time, and then I'll have to go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you give him a better hand clap? I think he's been very patient in response and very candid. I think that is the kind of conversation that we... The very last round, I think I have a gentleman here who had requested before we start. I want to give to the good lady here, so number 2. And then I give to the gentleman here, number 3. And I think to the good lady here, number 4. And I think the gentleman... And this, the lady here, number 5. I think that we can only do that. Yeah, the rest, by the way, Kuna Venya will respond. Badai. Thank you so much. Can we start with the gentleman here, please?
Thank you. My name is Samuel Mora. I'm a tax agent. So you're welcome to the profession. And I work for Grantham, but I'm here on behalf of ISPOC. I was actually meant to facilitate this particular session, but the Prime Cabinet Minister has done justice to it. I like his sober way of handling things, and Prime Cabinet Secretary, may I tell you, this place, there was anger before you came, but I think you've done some justice. 2-3 things. You had mentioned, or you told us to stop living a lie, but I'd also throw probably a bottle back to you and say, our leaders should also stop making promises that make us live a lie. Because one of the things that was mentioned was like, how do you expect the price of gas to go down, and yet it is heavily taxed? And at times we hear that we intend to actually construct 100 dams in 5 years, yet in the last 10 years we were not able to do even 5 stadiums. Subsidies, when Prime Cabinet Secretaries, just to let you know, it was good idea but bad for the government because it has left oil marketers in a very bad position. I'm privy of some of which are our clients where they are owed millions of Kenya shillings and they are now at the mercies of banks. In case they want to call their overdraft, they will not be able to do anything. But also, what really makes probably most of us not very comfortable with the promises that we are getting is that we see a lot of